Hello friends. So, time for an update. Welcome to this other half of the month vlog. We're officially at February 15th. Yesterday for Valentine's Day, I read absolutely nothing. It was my day off from work and I did absolutely nothing. I was completely a potato and I just was not having it. So there's that. So today while I was at work, the primary thing that I worked on was we are now doing what we like to call section detail. And that's where we actually like set the shelves for how we want customers to shop them. So this is where we sort them, we strictly alphabetize, and I was working in Manga today, so I also had to numerically make sure everything was in order. We decide what gets turned and faced out, what stays spined, and what goes on tables, things like that. I didn't get to tables today, but I did get everything sorted and placed properly. I haven't strictly started doing any tables yet because I wasn't told what tables were for what, because certain things are already decided. So I have to know what has already been decided for them and what hasn't been, and decide what goes on them after that. So that's tomorrow's Shay's problem. So right now, the big thing I did, I had one main audiobook for the day because it was a bit of a longer one. And so I listened to Bride by Hazelwood. Now, I actually really quite enjoyed this, considering I recently read another Hazelwood. I enjoyed this one more. I can't say that I enjoyed it more than the other books from her that I enjoyed. I think there is a pretty decent big world she could play with at this point. And she definitely set up another couple. So I'm excited for more in this werewolf, vampire, human world that she's setting up here. And I really had a good time with Bride. So in this one, essentially, it's a political marriage between the alpha of the werewolves and the daughter of the man in charge of the vampires. So that's kind of the initial setup. There's a lot more going on here, obviously, but I liked the dynamic between the two of them. He, of course, being the alpha that he is, recognizes immediately that they are mates, but he doesn't want to tell her that because he doesn't want to force or pressure her into giving up whatever kind of life she wants because of his baser, instincts, as he says it. And so the way that they come together intimately worked really well for me. And it was all about consent, almost to the point where it was too much. Because it felt like, okay, dude, she has clearly given her consent multiple times now. You need to trust her. But at the time, that's how it felt. But then we realized he hadn't been fully honest, because he kept telling her that she wasn't his mate, even though that's a lie. And so he didn't want them to join together without it being fully clear and fully honest, which I respect. And so it was one of those things where it worked really well for me, and I could see how that wouldn't work for everybody else. And thankfully, sometimes Hazelwood will get too focused on, he's so big and she's so tiny. She does that a little bit, but then again, you're dealing with, a man who shifts into a werewolf form as opposed to a vampire who's obviously going to be, human-sized. So, I understand establishing that initially, but I feel like she didn't dwell on it like she does in some of her others. So, they instead, she chose to focus on body heat because naturally she's colder because she's a vampire, and he radiates heat because he's a werewolf. So that was the fixation rather than it being like he's so big and she's so tiny. But I think it worked really well for me because I've read Omegaverse before, and this is very lightly Omegaverse. Not really. This is more like fated mates with nodding. So I wouldn't even truly call this Omegaverse. Some people have called it that, and I'm like, I wouldn't even call it Omegaverse. So you oversold me on that part. But this is a fated mates with nodding situation. And I like me a good fated mates book. So I went in with proper expectations, I think. I think if you don't know that it's going to be fated mates and that there's nodding and a little bit of that Omegaverse kind of thing going on, you may not like it. Period. End of story. But none of this weirded me out. Like, maybe I've just read so much weird crap that I'm never going to be shocked by something like this. And I don't think it felt like her other books. And I appreciated that it didn't feel like her other books. I don't need it to feel like her other books. Because I don't know, like, I haven't loved any of her other books. So I didn't necessarily love this one. This one's like a solid 4 for me. But I could see loving the next book. Because the couple that they're setting up, like that she's setting up at the end of this book, like I'm very invested in them. So I hope that's the next book. If it's not, I would be super sad. But like they kind of had that mating snap bond thing going on right at the very end of the book. And so I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready. So I hope with all my heart that that's the next book we get. And then I started a Beverly Jenkins that I thought was a contemporary, but it's actually a historical. And I'm honestly okay with that. Like, it doesn't bother me. Queen Bev is always good. And so obviously I'm enjoying that one. But yeah, the more I think on it, the more I think Bride is more than a 4-star. This might be my favorite Allie Hazelwood. I don't think it's a 5 though. It's not quite a 5, definitely not a 6. 4.5 maybe? Because I do think I liked this one a little bit better than her others now that I'm like sitting on it and marinating on it. So I think Bride's a 4.5. And then the Queen Bev I barely got into before work was over. So I don't have anything really going on there. So anyhow, that's what's going on. I am obviously headed home and traffic is super sucky. So I'm going to let y'all go since I'm kind of stuck in traffic. And yeah, kind of a long rambly update mostly about Bride. So if my rating changes from a 4.5, I will let you know. I don't think it will. It wouldn't go up from a 4.5 though, I don't think. Unless I just can't get it out of my head. Like, there's a whole big old macro plot going on here that's working for me. So, yeah. Like, I'm invested. I'm here for it. So, anyway, chat with y'all later. Hello, everybody. So, we are now at February 22nd. I know, it's been a minute since we've chatted. Whoop, sorry, you're slipping. So, meet the inside of my new car. Her name is Mary, like the Going Berry from One Piece. Because, yes, I am that person that names my cars. Anyways, so, story time. Over the last week or so, I had noticed my car had its light on. And so I'm like, okay, why is the light on in my car? So I schedule it for maintenance, see what's going on. Well, like, there was something was going wrong with my camshaft, there was a leak in the water pump, and the turbo went out. So, with all those things combined, the cost for repairs would have almost matched the trade-in value of the car. So, we opted to trade in and get me a different car. So we just got the new version of the car that I had and I really loved. So this is a 2024 Chevy Trax. I hate that I have a car payment again. Thankfully, it's a manageable car payment. So there's that at least. So love that for me. Which also means I will be buying even less. Though I did still take a trip to Barnes & Noble last night. You'll see what I picked up in my Manga login haul coming up. I'm pretty sure you'll see this before you see that. I haven't fully settled on my March schedule yet. So anyhow, let's talk about what I've been reading. I think I only updated you like the first day after the last vlog. So yeah, I need to double check and see what I need to talk to you about. So hold on, I'll be back. So first things first, I have Nerd Crush. I had this as a Libro FM arc from forever ago, and so I'm finally getting around to reading it. This was really cute. You see the deception of her not being honest about who she is with the guy being the main conflict from the beginning. So obviously this is nothing surprising or earth-shattering or anything like that. But I ended up really enjoying it. I think it was really cute. I love the way they brought in cosplay as her interest. I think all of that worked really, really well, honestly. So I would definitely recommend checking it out for that. And I thought it was a really sweet YA. It was super cute. They're in high school. You know, he's the cute new boy in town who, you know, she hasn't really interacted with, but then starts interacting with. And that just causes more problems. So, then after that, that's what it was. It's Out on a Limb. I think it's by Helen Bonham Young, I think is the author's name. So this one was interesting. They both have a disability. One, her fingers never developed really on her hand, so she has what she calls a tiny hand. And then he is an amputee and has a prosthesis. He has a prosthetic leg. You can see from the cover here. Like if you look close, you can see her tiny hand. So in this one, this is a one night stand turned pregnancy story. It does take her a minute to tell him about it, but once she does, he's all in. They start as friends. They do develop into a romantic relationship by the end. And I know, like, I don't normally do pregnancy stories. Period, end of story. I just don't. They're not usually my jam. They're not usually my thing. But this one really worked for me for some reason. I'm giving it a solid 4. There were still some uncomfortable things and discussions related to the pregnancy. This is a pro-choice book, which is just fine for me. Like, that didn't bother me at all. I also believe people should have a choice. This also takes place in Canada, where, you know, that whole discussion isn't quite so heated. But I do appreciate that the discussion still happened. And the way it was approached from the doctor and stuff, like, I think it was all done very tastefully, that no matter where you land or what you feel on that, you should be pretty happy. So, again, I liked it. I didn't love it. I would pick up something else from this author, so keep that in mind. Now I gotta check again. Oh, next one I have to talk to you about is the Lonely Hearts Book Club. So this is a fiction novel. This was one of the monthly picks from Barnes & Noble last year. And I picked up the audio then, but just never got around to actually, like, reading it. And I really liked this one. This is about a hodgepodge group of people kind of figuring out where they're at in life and what they want out of life. The way it's all approached is so sweet and so cute. Our main female that we start following in the beginning, and then everybody else is kind of tied to her. She is engaged to this guy she doesn't really care about, but she feels obligated, and she's afraid of being alone because of family traumas. And so through this found family situation, she kind of settles into who she is and what she wants. And it's really, really lovely. I really loved that. Then after that, I believe it's Mr. Fixer-Upper. This is by, I'm still getting used to this, somebody McLeod, Phoebe McLeod, maybe? This one is a British, this leans more what we used to call women's fic, but it does lean more literary, where it's not so much about, it's not so relationship forward, it's very her forward. And so essentially in this one, she has this boyfriend who's kind of a philanthropist. His family like fuels all of it, and he ends up going on this sabbatical, you could say, to go pursue art, which ends up, of course, sounding like and being a scam. But through that, you know, he's not faithful and things like that. But she, in the meantime, these gorgeous guys move across the hall. Her roommate hooks up with one, and she's just left kind of being good friends with the other one. And the way their friendship develops into more is really sweet. I really liked it. Again, like a 3.5, 4. Nothing to write home about, but it was really good. It was a great listen. The next one to talk to you about, I'm remembering the order a little bit better now, is The Princess of Thornwood Drive. So this is a fantasy, I wouldn't even call it a fantasy romance. This is a fantasy that was put out by Forever Romance, which was surprising, but I really loved. This is more about the sisters. So we have a sister who's like muted in a way where she can still think completely normal and completely fine, but something has happened to her to where she can't actually speak and articulate. It's like a magic disease, you could say. So she can't use her magic, all that kind of stuff. And her parents died in an accident, so it's her and her sister left. So her sister is running the country, and she can't help, and people are trying to take advantage and abuse that. And so it's about these sisters kind of coming into who they are. This does not have, not everybody makes it out alive, I guess I'll say. Not everybody is safe. And it's not one of those everybody makes it out okay situations. But I really appreciated how it went, how it ended. I would love to see more in this world. So if they decide to publish more from this author in this world, I'm definitely down for it. But I really, really loved it. And then last but not least is Destined by the Wraith by Regine Abel. This is her newest release in her Shadow Realm series, which I really, really loved. Solid 5 stars. It's not a 6-star. It's not a new like all-time favorite from her, but I really, really love it. Solid 5, definitely worth reading. Then again, I love me a good paranormal romance, and this definitely scratched that paranormal itch for me that I've been feeling lately. So really happy with that. No qualms, very happy. With that said, I think that's everything for this update. Sorry they were all kind of brief, but because there were so many, I didn't want to take too long. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at this morning. I'm about to go into work, and we'll see what I can get done today. I think the store is mostly set, except for like shelf talkers, which are like the little papers underneath the books that tell you kind of about the book and what people feel about reading the book. So I think that's kind of the project today. I don't know for sure. We will see what's in store, and then I've got to do some social media stuff. So anyhow, that's kind of the update. Obviously you've seen Mary now, so yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and I will update you more when I have more to say. Hello. So we are officially at February 26th, I believe is the day. And I think I'm going to call my February reading here because I don't know that I'm going to finish anything else before the end of the month with the store opening in 2 days and things like that. So we're going to wrap here, and I'm good with that. The only other thing that I've read since we last chatted is Shadow Magic by Donna Grant. This was one of my Libro FM arcs that I got. I worked through a lot of my Libro arcs this month, so I'm really pleased with the progress I've made on my audiobook TBR this month. My physical book TBR, not so much. So when it comes to Shadow Magic, I think this was a really fun one. It's like a 3.5 star. It didn't do anything major for me. This is set more in a medieval time period, and it is, I believe, working with Irish folklore of witches. And essentially we have this witch where all of the witches have been cursed to where once they give birth to their first child, the love of their life leaves them and has nothing to do with them. And they are like broken and half humans after that. And of course she meets this beautiful man, things develop from there. And this witch is also she can somewhat see the future. She can see 2 different paths depending on choices that are made. So she finds out that this man that she's very attracted to might die along with her best friend and people who have taken good care of her if she doesn't intervene. So that's kind of what's going on. That's kind of the setup of that one. I do think it was well executed for what it was. I wanted a little more from it. I mean, the world isn't really developed. You just assume the magic works. Like it's not anything deep. And I think if it had gone a little deeper, I would have enjoyed it more. But again, this is primarily a fantasy romance. So yes, there's a fantastical element there, but it's mostly focused on the romance between the 2 main characters. So if you're going in just for vibes, I think you're just great. If you're wanting more from it, you're not going to be loving it. So there's a lot of talk about, virginity and purity and all those kinds of things. And she also is very sensitive to everything, sensitive to loud noises, sensitive to touch. And she bruises easily, except for with this man. So even someone throwing a rock at her back, a small rock, caused her to have a big giant bruise, things like that. So it made for some interesting points within the plot. Like if the sun was too hot and she's not properly covered up, she would get a really bad sunburn. But, being someone who's lived with it her entire life, she has all her home remedies with her, things like that. So I do think it did enough for it to feel like a fantasy romance, but I just wanted more. I've gotten spoiled with my fantasy romances lately. I want more of a world. I want a little more development. Now, I don't know if this is a book 2 or something in a series where you get more of that setup in another book. I don't know. Because I believe it's called the Sisters in Magic series, so there might be more. So I might go investigate that and see if there's anything more for me to learn. But I would read from Donna Grant again for sure. And, being able to work through so many Libra arcs this month was great. Before moving on, I will tell you what I'm in the middle of. I'm buddy reading The Husky and His White Cat Shih Tzu #4 with Lindsay. I'm very behind on that. I'm also finishing my buddy read of Forged by Malice with Izzy, because I've been the one behind. She's ahead of me now. And then my current audiobook is Against the Current, which is a cozy mystery. So I'm kind of all over the place with my reading. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're here just because you love me, give me a book stack emoji, because I'm going to be deep in the stacks for the next few days. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you.